So there was a vote. Let's talk about it after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, we need to talk about Nicole Auerbach's report in The Athletic that shows not only was there a vote, but there are two sworn affidavits, one from the president at the University of Northwestern and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren explaining that there was a vote as to whether or not the Big Ten should postpone fall sports, which includes, yes, football. The vote was 11-3, and this is interesting because, as she points out in her story, you needed a 60% majority for any vote to carry, right? So that means that you needed like 9 votes of the 14 presidents to say that they wanted to play football for you to play football. This had been such a big deal for so many people because Kevin Warren said that there was a vote. He said it was overwhelming that the majority of university presidents wanted to postpone college football and fall sports, to which we had the Minnesota president come out and say, I don't think it was a vote per se. I don't know that we actually voted. And then we had folks widely saying there was no vote. Kevin Warren made all of this up to try to cover his own behind, which did not sound at all based in reality, but that's kind of the nature of college football as we talk about, well, how we actually talk about the sport. Because sometimes the stuff that is so bizarre is just not true, and other times the stuff that is so bizarre is absolutely true. This happens to be one of those times when a commissioner who's just been in the job a little over a year is having to make one of the biggest decisions in his career and in college football history, quite honestly, and choosing to postpone fall sports because there are enough university presidents that believe it is unsafe to play, even as the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC have all decided they're going to go ahead and play a modified schedule, with the Big 12 going to 9+1, with the ACC also going to a +1 model, and the SEC saying we're just going to play interconference. We're going to play a 10-game conference schedule among our 14 teams, and that's how we're going to go about it. What's wild about this is how the Pac-12 has basically been in lockstep about their decision. You haven't heard any athletic directors, coaches, or university presidents going out to say, hey, I want to play college football. I don't know what the big deal is about. They understand, and they released a 12-page memo saying as much. And in that way, Larry Scott looks a little bit better than Kevin Warren does, to which we've had the question whether or not Kevin Warren is getting unfair criticism. I think so, because he works at the leisure of the university presidents, which is to say that all the university presidents used him as a shield and threw him under the bus for the decisions that they wanted to make. I didn't think that was fair. I don't think that's fair now. Now, how they have handled the messaging is definitely on Kevin Warren. From his open letter to the Big 12 community, to the coaches conference call that got contentious, to this conversation over the weekend about how they might try to start their season around Thanksgiving weekend as opposed to January or even February, to Nebraska head coach Scott Frost going out in front of media and saying, our university chancellor wants to play football. We want to play football. We're going to try to go rogue. And then the university chancellor coming out the next Monday saying, I don't think it's safe to play football, and I believe that most Big Ten presidents believe so, to Sandy Barber at Penn State saying, hey, I don't know what Kevin Warren was talking about, when clearly, as the athletic director at Penn State, she had knowledge of what was going on here, to the Rutgers University president dunking on Kevin Warren saying, I don't know what he's doing. The messaging from the Big Ten has been the real failure here, not necessarily its decision, because they're catching this amount of heat because they continue to take on everybody's request as to, we want more information. We want to know what it is that led you to this decision. I would like to know as well, and I would have loved for them to be more transparent, but it ain't my shop, which is to say that if it's not my shop, I don't actually get to request anything that they don't have to show me. So you could use open record request, try to get emails to try to get to the bottom of the mess, but at the end of the day, the decision is also just in the hands of the Big Ten university presidents, who collectively run the Big Ten Conference that generates nearly $1 billion in television revenue each and every year, and who covets and pushes in front of us those most valuable properties as Ohio State football, Michigan football, Wisconsin football. Minnesota is a property now. We're also talking about how Nebraska is always going to be a property. And even Rutgers doesn't pull you down. And oh, by the way, there's Maryland, right? And I just find this to be wildly interesting that we're still talking about Kevin Warren as having messed this up when it's becoming increasingly clear it's not the big decision that he messed up. It's all the decisions thereafter that are within his control. But the university presidents did not do him any sort of a favor by trying to help him dig out of this messaging failure. Meanwhile, we have Nicole Auerbach that is finding sworn affidavits. They're saying, yes, they had a vote, and not only had a vote, it was tremendously one-sided. 11 out of 14 said, we don't want to play football. You can make a guess as to the 3 that were holdouts, right? Iowa, Nebraska, Ohio State. Thing is, you can't actually break away from the Big Ten Conference and not suffer the consequences of breaking away from the Big Ten Conference. That said, if Ohio State chose to break away, they might be the only program inside of the Big Ten that could succeed as an independent and also would not have any trouble finding another conference to play in. But Gene Smith, the athletic director at Ohio State, has already said, we're Big Ten members. We have a Big Ten legacy. We will continue to do what is in the best interest of the Big Ten as well as Ohio State and put the kibosh on that. I understand that this is not going to meet with the approval of so many Big Ten fans. I also understand that this is not going to meet with the approval of so many college football fans who are already having questions about the legitimacy of a season that hasn't even begun yet at the FBS level, and it's going to kick off this Thursday with South Alabama playing USM and UAB playing Central Arkansas. But outside of that, we always knew that the SEC was going to be good, the Big 12 was going to be decent, ACC's got a team that will contend for a championship. We've also had college football playoffs that did not feature a Big Ten team or a Pac-12 team, which is to say that if we didn't have those two programs or conferences represented in the college football playoff, it wouldn't be that big a deal. We've seen it before. We just like this opportunity for other teams to be involved, but not that many teams, because I end up to be the only person that's stopping for the team outside the Power 5 to get a shot at the college football playoff. Those of you that have been watching this show for the past 3 years understand I stumped for Appalachian State. I legitimized Central Florida's national championship. It's the rest of the world that does not want to have to contend with Memphis, SMU, Cincinnati, or, yes, UCF, that does not want to have to contend with Appalachian State, that doesn't want to have to contend with Boise State. I would love to see all those teams get an opportunity to win a national championship, but really, you only want to see those teams from those Power 5, and now all of a sudden everybody's getting into a tizzy because that Power 5 is now Power 3, while the other two are going to miss all the lawsuits, all the fallout that come from playing in the middle of a pandemic and trying to get whatever money you could possibly get to make just a buck when nobody is able to make a buck. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.